All right, next we're going to cover project governance, creating status reports, and monitoring the project, which will include utilizing the risk register and tracking issues. So at this point, we have done the estimating and we've gotten a statement of work signed. We've gone ahead and kicked off or scheduled the kickoff meeting, developed the kickoff deck. Hopefully you've actually had your kickoff meeting already. And we're going to assume that they have granted us access to all the environments and the location, whatever we need there, and the project is getting started. When the project gets started, you now go into this cycle of build, doing status reporting, and then doing change request as needed. And this cycle typically is iterative until the project is complete. So, project governance is actually established in your kickoff meeting, but I realized that we didn't really talk about what the options are and how much you should have and when in the project. So this will have to be established before you can start doing status reports, and probably should be covered in the kickoff meeting. But I wanted to make sure that we took a step back and took a look at this. So how much project governance you need is really dependent on how big the project is, how many people are on the team, how long the project is. And it's important to note that there is both internal project governance and external project governance, and those are very different. I know that a lot of organizations that I work at, there needs to be a lot of hand-holding and making sure we're doing what we're saying we're going to do. We don't let the client see any of that, but there does need to be governance where it is client-facing as well. And so I just listed out some options here of different types of governance. A lot of times these daily stand-ups happen internally. I've been on a lot of projects where the client is involved in these as well. One of the cool newer things is there's a Loom, and you can actually record your progress daily or weekly, and that allows just everybody on the team to go out and to view what's going on with the project at any given time. That's a great way to just show here's progress. A lot of times we'll have kind of bi-weekly touch points, which again, maybe with the client, maybe with the just internal team, sort of depends on, again, all these variables. And then there's the weekly status meeting. This could be a bi-weekly status meeting. It just depends on what's appropriate. But you should actually write up a report that gets mailed, especially to the project sponsor. And so we will actually look next at a template for that and what should be included on a status report. And then sometimes the sponsors don't really care what's going on a day-to-day basis. They just want an update kind of monthly. That can be written, it can be a meeting. And then if you have a really large project and the ROI or the business outcome is incredibly important, or it's a really big project that's going to impact everyone, a lot of times the executive steering committee likes to be informed, and you want to let them have set times that they're going to be engaged and you can show progress. So those are some of the options. Let's hop over here to an example of a status report. So like I said, again, it depends on how quick your project's moving, to what level of detail you need to go here, and how frequently you need to do these. But here's what I like to have in a status report. So the project name would go up here. We would put the date that we update the status report, and then I like to put in what the scope is. So this can come from your statement of work, your schedule comes from your statement of work, and your budget comes from your statement of work. Now, some, again, clients don't want everyone on the team knowing what the budget is or how we're tracking against it, so you may need to leave this off, or you may need to put something sort of broad and vague in there. I have also added an actual because a lot of times there's change requests that occur. And so I want to capture that in here if any of those changes have occurred. And then I just try to do an executive summary and give a visual indicator. So let's say we're doing a project and the sales process is in scope and the operational process is in scope, and the client has come back and they've said, you know what, we think we're going to actually need the resourcing operations the actual invoicing process included as well. They do a change request. We would update that in actual. But there's a period of time where there may be changes pending, or it's not really documented. You haven't really gotten buy-off, in which case I would say that the scope is yellow because not everybody's on the same page. And if you're in the process of doing things that haven't been included or haven't been approved and you're way off track, then it's important to mark this as red. And then you can put any notes about why that is and what you're doing to remedy it. I like to say that green is we're good, yellow is we're off track, but we think we can get it back on track, and red is the plane is not going to land, meaning there's going to be a schedule change, there's going to be a budgetary change, there's going to be a risk of us not completing the way we said we were going to. So same thing, schedule, at risk with a plan to recover, or past due and there's no way we're going to make it. So you can mark these all the same. You can mark them different. I think it's really helpful. Don't be afraid to use the red. A project can be red one week and not red the next week. This is a red flag, and it gives everybody the warning of, hey, pay attention, something is really important. So I throw the red flag a lot when somebody says they're going to have something done by a certain day, they don't, and it's impacting or impeding, costing us time, increasing the schedule, which ultimately impacts the budget. So don't be afraid to use red. I then also include key milestones. So on our work breakdown structure, we have all of the tasks. We certainly do not need to put every single task, but you may want to put some big buckets, right? So, getting this security done, deploying the solution to the test environment. Those are major milestones. You grab those and you put those here with the dates that you think you're going to get them done based on that resource planning. And then status might be, in progress, not, in planning, not started. And then you can put any notes here as well. So you'll set all of this up the first time. You'll have your initial meeting, and usually people will have comments or updates. And so there's a little note section here. This is a working document. It changes every week or every time you have a status meeting. And then there's almost always action items that come out of the status meeting. And so this is great to just capture, all right, this environment wasn't set up and we cannot move into the elaboration phase until that's done. And so by January 12th, the environment needs to be set up. Error there. The status of it's pending or it's been assigned, and then I actually put the owner in here usually, who's going to do it. Another item that is on my status reports is the financials. And again, I put this at the bottom so that I can hide this if I need to save this as a PDF and share it with anybody. But I always want to track the cost of what has been billed to date. And then I also track what the estimate to complete is and what the original budget is. And are we doing time and material? Are we billing every 2 weeks? I keep track of invoices. So once we've invoiced, how much have we invoiced? And then estimated budget to complete is an interesting one, because you cannot just say the project's a $100,000 project. We're halfway done and we've billed $50,000. That means we have $50,000 left. That may or may not be true. You may have 80% of the work to do still. And so that's why it's really important that you're going back to your work breakdown structure and you're looking at what got done, how many hours has been billed against it, what's remaining, which tasks are closed, which tasks are open. All of that is project management. And that's why we have project managers, just to keep us accountable and keep all of that on track for us. So that is where you're going to figure out what's actually remaining that needs to be done. So this is all really helpful information to help you determine if you're red, yellow, or green. Now, the other thing you should be doing in your status meetings is you should be reviewing the risk. So when you estimated this project, why is my risk button not working? There we go. When you estimated this project, you went through all of the risk, and hopefully in the kickoff meeting, maybe you added some more. However, at some point, we actually start the project. We then need to just monitor these risks and identify if there's any triggers that have happened or if there's any likelihood of these things happening. If so, we need to put the mitigation plan into play. And then if during the project, something actually becomes an issue, any issue, a resource wasn't available, you're going to actually put in here the date you're going to say key resource not available due to illness. And what was the impact? So because of that, we lost 2 business days. And so what is the status? Has this issue been resolved? Is it still open? Who's in charge of resolving it? What date did it actually get resolved? And then any notes that you need to put in here. Now, you can actually track this issue back to the risk log here. And you can say, we were afraid that the business analyst was not going to be available for some reason. We were going to have a resourcing issue. And so that actually came to fruition. They weren't available. We have now identified that risk has become an issue. And so if you need additional dollars, they should come out of that contingency bucket that you budgeted for initially in the project, right? So you have that money setting aside. So it just facilitates a conversation. You may charge for it. You may not charge for it. You don't have to. If it is a big impact, that is when you would go to a change request. And so the next step I want to do is just hop over here and look at what a change request template might look like. I think it's really important to note that a change request doesn't necessarily have to mean that there's a change to the budget or that somebody has to go back and get more money. A change request is simply documenting that there was a reason, that there was a change, and when was that change requested, who requested it, what was the change, and then what's the cost or the impact associated with this change. You can keep track of this just in your issues log, but when it gets to be a bigger change or you need to notify somebody, that's where I like doing it in these templates, because you can actually get a signature and just acknowledgement that other people on the project were aware. But at the very minimum, make sure that you're keeping track of that within your status report under your issues log. This will save you a ton of pain. In the moment, it won't seem like a big deal. Oh yeah, so-and-so was out for an illness. It's a really big deal when you get to the end of the project and the project is delayed a week and everybody wants to know what happened and why you didn't manage to the original plan. You can then go back and you can say, well, 6 resources were out 2 days each. And so we really should be 12 days behind and we're 5 days behind. It just helps keep everybody on the same page, and it allows you to tell the story when you go back and you do your lessons learned or your project closeout. So that is a little bit about risk and issue management, why it's important to have a risk log, how you can then take that contingency bucket that you had in your initial plan and you can tie that back. Next up, we are going to talk about managing change, because as you're building the solution or as you're delivering your service, chances are that whatever it is that you're doing is going to impact the company's either employees or their end users. And so it's really important to be helping them think about, when you get close to being done, what does that mean for them, and helping them prepare so that they're ready for whatever service that you provided to change their day-to-day life. And that they're aware and they can prep their people or their vendors or their employees, their clients, depending on obviously what the service is that you're providing. So join us for the next video on change management. Thanks. And as always, if you need anything, here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out, and look forward to helping you serve your clients better.